How's it going, everyone? Today we're going to go over more Laker rumors as they just keep on coming. And today we're going to go over trade rumors that have linked Chris Paul and Demar Derozan to the Lakers. And while I don't think either of these are very likely to happen personally, there have been a lot of big media platforms reporting on these rumors, so I thought I'd cover them and give my opinion on if any of them have any truth. And with that, we'll begin with the never-ending Chris Paul to the Lakers trade rumors. And this rumor has new life due to the media reporting that both LeBron and the Laker management is reportedly interested in the possibility of bringing him to LA. There have also been rumors that have come out reporting that Chris Paul would quote-unquote love to return to LA. And I think this quote in particular might have a little truth due to him maybe wanting to get a little revenge on the Clippers, because he left the Clippers with kind of a bad taste in his mouth, and those Clipper teams that he played for were some of the most disappointing teams in recent NBA memory. They always underachieved and never even made it past the second round of the playoffs. And I know some Laker fans would love to see him finally make it to the Lakers, only to kind of give one last middle finger to the NBA for vetoing the original trade that would have brought him to the Laker team nearly a full decade ago. And for that reason, I would be kind of amused by it, but to give up the few assets that the team has to acquire him, I wouldn't find very amusing. Chris Paul having a great year with the Thunder definitely raised his trade value, and now he would not simply be a contract dump for the Thunder, they would want a real trade return for him. But for the actual trade rumors, I never really thought it was even possible due to how big of a contract Chris Paul has, but apparently it is possible to acquire him in a trade. The Lakers would need to trade Kyle Kuzma, Danny Green, Quinn Cook, the player they take in the 2020 NBA draft, and then also include Avery Bradley and JaVale McGee after they opt into their player options. And that is obviously a lot to give up for a 35-year-old Chris Paul, who again has a massive contract at around $41 million owed in 2020 and 2021, and then $44 million in 2021-2022. Personally, there is no way I'd ever make this trade. They would be giving up way too much for an aging point guard who already has an injury history and a huge contract to go along with it. And although he is still one of the most elite point guards in the NBA, the Lakers would be out of their mind in my opinion to make that trade. The only way I would consider making a trade for Chris Paul if I were them is if the Thunder would be willing to take on some of his contract to make the deal easier to make and to have less risk involved in it. And I really doubt the Thunder would do that. They've been very stubborn about getting a good return for him in a trade. They even kept him for a full year when everyone thought they were going to immediately trade him again after they acquired him. Fortunately for them, it did work out in their favor, but at the same time, he is the only thing preventing them from going into a complete rebuild. And really, I do think the Thunder would love to trade with the Lakers if they had the chance. The Thunder already have a ton of draft picks, so that's really not what they're looking for in a return for Chris Paul. They want another young player who has potential, and for them, Kyle Kuzma may be a good target. They personally seen what he can do if given an opportunity to have the ball in his hands, as he had his best game of the year against them. He had his season high in points versus the Thunder in 2020 when LeBron and AD both sat out and he dropped 36 on them. Kuzma could be a nice complement to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Dortz, and Steven Adams if they choose to keep him. They could even have a legitimate core to build around with them and could actually even compete right away as well. But again, if I'm the Lakers, the only way I do a trade with the Thunder for Chris Paul is if they agree to take on part of his contract with him. So for me, a deal that I would consider if I were them is giving up Kyle Kuzma, Danny Green, Quinn Cook, JaVale McGee if he opts into his contract, and then the player they take in the 2020 NBA draft for Chris Paul, and the Thunder agreeing to take on roughly $10 to $15 million of his contract. The Lakers need to play hard to get here, as they really don't need Chris Paul, and they definitely don't need his huge contract. Overall, I think it is very unlikely to happen anyway, but these are only my thoughts on the rumor, and what it would take for me to even listen to the Thunder if I were the Laker team. But what do you guys think? Should they try and trade for Chris Paul? And if you think they should, what should they be willing to give up? Comment down below and we can talk about it there. But now moving on to rumors involving Demar Derozan, and these mainly come from a report claiming that Derozan is unhappy in San Antonio and doesn't want to be there. But at the same time, he likely doesn't want to decline his player option, as he wouldn't be able to get the same amount of money in free agency. This would mean he's likely looking to opt into his deal, but then wanting a trade out of San Antonio after that. And this is where the rumors have linked him to LA. Demar will make a little under $28 million in 2020-2021, and to acquire him in a trade, the Lakers would need to match his contract with other contracts. For that to work, they need to include Danny Green, Quinn Cook, Kyle Kuzma, and JaVale McGee after he would opt into his contract. Again, this would be very hard to do because it would require McGee to opt into his contract only to be traded immediately after. And really, would the Lakers even want to make this trade? I wouldn't if I were them. While Demar is a great offensive talent, I don't believe he'd be a great fit on the team. He isn't known for being a defender, he is a below average 3-point shooter, and he needs the ball in his hands to be an all-star level player. All of those things don't translate to being an effective player on this team in my opinion. And then when you add on his big contract, it only becomes an even worse idea in my opinion. The only good thing about this trade I can see is that they could get rid of Danny Green's contract without having to give up their current draft pick or any future draft picks while getting a productive player in return who also isn't under contract through 2022. But does that mean they should do a trade to get him? Definitely not in my opinion. For him to even work in a lineup with LeBron and AD, they need to have two other great 3-point shooters in to space the floor very effectively who could also defend at a high level. And as of right now, they don't have any other players like that. And players who can both shoot and defend at a high level usually don't come cheap. This would not only be a difficult trade to pull off, but then building the team around DeRozan, LeBron, and AD would be very tough to pull off with little to no remaining cap space. This rumor to me is another rumor without much truth. I think he's really only being linked to the Laker team due to them being champions and him originally being from California. But other than that, I don't see much real connection behind it. But now moving on to our final topic, and this one does actually have truth behind it, not only speculation, and that is Phil Handy reportedly denying offers from teams like the Brooklyn Nets who are trying to add him to their coaching staff. And this is a huge positive for the Laker team because if you don't know, Phil Handy is regarded as one of the premier player development coaches in the entire NBA. He has a knack for helping players develop and fit into certain roles on a team, and he clearly is very highly regarded not only on the team, but in the NBA as a whole. I was personally getting a little nervous when there wasn't any news coming out for a while after he got offered an assistant coaching job from Steve Nash in Brooklyn to work with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. That would be one of the few jobs that might have a little bit of intrigue to him outside of working with LeBron, Anthony Davis, and the Laker organization in LA. But overall, there isn't a whole lot to cover other than that he is now reportedly confirmed to be staying in LA. And that to me is great news, and it should be for everyone else who is considered a Laker fan. But that'll do it for this video. What do you guys think about the Chris Paul and Demar Derozan trade rumors? Do you think they have any real truth behind them? And do you think the Lakers should pursue a trade for either of them? Comment down below what you think and we can talk about all of it there. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And a huge shout out to everyone who watched until the end of the video. I appreciate you guys the most, and it truly helps out the video and the channel as a whole when you guys watch until the end of the video. I truly appreciate it. But as always, thank you for watching.